Ben, we're here at the European Fabric Convention. How are you finding it?
Good. There's a lot of people. It's great to see like the fabric community expanding from last year. They had 3,000 people here last year. They're over 4,000 strong now.
Yeah.
Seeing a lot of people post a lot of content, being able to catch up with them and speak about what they write and stuff like that. It's really interesting.
Yeah. And if you were to take one thing away from this event, what is that one bit of information which you go, you know what, people just need to know about this?
On a personal view, I'm excited about the One Lake security features.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
so we tried some private preview work with that earlier in the year, and it looks really, really good. There's still some features that potentially couldn't make it as rich as it could be, sort of dynamic rules, for example, right? But the fact that it's coming into public preview now, I think is really great. From a team point of view, I think there's been a lot of work around data flows, Gen 2, which is great for us as a team because we have found in the past issues with how those workloads scale. And to know that Microsoft are actively working on that with this modern execution engine sounds exciting. And being able to parallelize some of those workflows sounds like we can get a lot more performance boost out of implementing those kind of structures in our workloads.
I thought when in the keynote this morning, they touched on One Lake catalog. And all that information is like uber cool because not only are you able to document information all in kind of one place, but also downstream when you're using that data, then actually you can then limit what people can access, what they can't. And even when people try to get around the rules, there are controls in place, and then all the additional auditing within Purview as well brings that whole kind of data state into that governance remit. And I think when I start looking at agents and using AI on top of data, that's a really good enabler for that. And in fact, when we start thinking about, one of the sessions I touched on was, I think of vector searching in databases in Fabric. And it was talking on, well, you need to start understanding what RAG is, what vector searches are, but also understanding how applications hook onto that. That applications have the intelligence and knowledge of when to interact with a LLM, how it's going to interact with the data within those databases. But then people going away and using Visual Studio Code to then interface with those databases and build apps using the Copilot add-ons in Visual Studio Code is just mind-blowing. And in fact, the guys who are running it, I can't remember kind of what their roles are now, but they look at the SQL databases, right? And they've come from a database background and now building apps on top of that. So in fact, AI is enabling them to prototype more, build out these cool apps and products.
So you've highlighted two really big areas that I think are consciously being pushed by Microsoft this year, right? Is one around the governance and two around the AI, co-pilots, agents, things like that, right? So One Lake catalog, going back to what you were originally, it's been there for a while, right? But I get the impression it's underutilized. When in reality, when you get that permission model correct within Fabric, One Lake catalog should be the go-to source to identify all the data products or data assets, data products, I suppose, that you have access to. And the features that they're bringing in line with some of the One Lake security stuff and also some of the governance stuff around, like I said, the Purview integrations is really, really good. So they're consciously making a massive push for that, which I think is great. And every single demo, every single satellite lecture, workshop that I've been to has in part mentioned AI, whether it be co-pilots or the agents, like we're saying. So it's and the MCP servers, right? So they're open source and those. That's quite cool.
So I thought it was interesting about how they're talking about data agents essentially being an MCP server for Fabric, saying that that's going to become more. They're talking about some preview capabilities and the direction you travel with that, but also that Fabric is your way to enable AI within your organisation, and that it is the one-stop shop. But without us talking about that in too much detail, let's bring Reuben into the question and see what he thinks.
Okay,
so if you want to... Reuben, how are you finding the event?
Very good, thanks Jay. Yeah, it's always the way, everything's always so busy every day with what we do for customers, so just taking the time and space to come and really focus on all the changes, what's going on, it's just great to take the opportunity to do it.
Yeah, and if you were to take one thing away from this event that our customers should be thinking about, we should be thinking about, what would that be?
The big theme is, for me, that I keep really thinking about, and it's not necessarily all new, is just how Fabric lets us accelerate the availability of data. Yeah. So the shortcutting and mirroring, new data sources being supported for that. Oracle has announced, saw some stuff about SAP systems being supported, so that basically real-time replication or pointing to data in Fabric. When you combine that with direct lake connectivity with Power BI, with none of the performance drawbacks of direct query, then you've got both ends blazing fast. The bit in the middle is, a sweet shop of tools to choose from still.
So on that point, you mentioned Oracle. Really difficult question for you. We're obviously currently where all the other vendors are. Where do you think their place is when it comes to Fabric going forward?
Well, I think it's just interesting to see a partnership like that. For all these other vendors are supported sources for mirroring. They have to be involved in that. So clearly buying into this ecosystem that I think there's nowhere else to look for the end-to-end analytics platform is Fabric. And the vendors are seeing that, okay, if you're using Oracle for the application database, fine. Let's get it in there. Let's let you use whatever tools you want to deliver insight to the business. I think it's nice to see that, none of these vendors are siloing everything away. Oracle, Snowflake, Microsoft, pick one. It's all compatible.
And I think with the MCP server elements as well, they're talking about how it's all open source. So actually, rather than having these kind of siloed instances, but actually, you are able to hook onto these different applications and so on, and therefore you can use that to empower your AI workflows and so forth. Really, really interesting stuff.
Yeah, and MCP server wasn't a set of words that were used this time last year, so it's indicative of how rapidly things become just part of the lexicon and what everyone's talking about. So
what's really interesting with it is a lot of the sessions have been talking about automation and so on. But MCP, although it's the buzzword at the moment, people talk about this AI bubble, right? Well, actually, when you start looking at these steps to go forward and enable these things, it starts off with just being able to ask the right question. And that is the first thing that people should be thinking of. All this other stuff is really important. But I suppose there's a danger of running away with it, not properly implementing it, and as a result, not being as successful as you potentially could be.
And I think we're typically quite careful, and
as you can see, guys, it's a very busy event.
So we're typically quite careful. I wouldn't say cautious, but we're always just appraising what we think about the tools on offer, and it's been really interesting to look again closely at data agents in Fabric and around that conversation of MCP server and integration. And there's some really nice things about how customers, I think, can take steps towards seeing quite focused implementations of agentic AI on top of the data in Fabric. So I think there's some really nice use cases to look at which don't need to cost the earth to deliver some value and then grow. So loads of food for thought, for sure. I'll mention one more thing, which is materialized lake views is huge. Something we've been keeping an eye on for a couple of months. Still in preview, but it really looks like, I mentioned it before, like that, the ETL or the ELT in the middle it looks like a set of tools that, again, we could really, really minimize the time taken for all of that workload. And when you join it all together, mirroring that medallion architecture with materialized lake views and direct lake connectivity into Power BI, blazing fast availability of data at scale is really exciting. So
Brilliant. Well, on that note, we're going to do more of these things. If there are any questions or queries on any of the stuff that we've gone on, ping us a message, put something in the comments. I'm more than happy to sit down and have a chat about it.